everybody. I am Tasha Jones. I am the Reginald L. Jones Fellow for the Indianapolis Recorder. And today, my guest is the Angela Brown. Welcome.
Thank you, Miss Tasha. So happy to be here with you and your audience.
Thank you. I'm going to turn this down a little bit today. We are listening to a little bit of Freddie Hubbard. I am wanting to end Black Music Month with you. I think that there is so much to learn and so much for us to glean from the art, the operatic art, and opera as an art form, and the history of opera. And so I wanted to talk to you because we in Indianapolis have a gem right here in our presence. And so thank you for saying yes to the interview. And I just want to jump in a little bit in regards to how did you get started with opera and how was that, made available to you?
Well, thank you for asking that question, Tasha. Always say opera chose me. I didn't choose it because I never wanted to be a screechy soprano. And I used to think it wasn't until I went to Oakwood. I sang everywhere in Indianapolis when I was younger, for IBE, Indiana Black Expo. I did the Black National Anthem for the luncheon. I sang a lot at Civic Theater and Footlight and for the Pacers in the, in between the, I guess it's the intermission entertainment. And I just sang for the opening of an envelope here in Indianapolis, but it wasn't until I went to Oakwood University in Huntsville, Alabama, that I found my operatic voice. And my teacher said, you have it to be an opera singer. So it was left up to me if that's what I wanted to do. So I started studying voice and learning about technique and how to place my voice and breathe, and then learning the repertoire and the different languages. I speak only English, okay? But I understand a lot of French, and I can, of course, pronounce all the Romance languages, French, Italian, and German. So I sing in all those languages, and it's been a lot of fun. I am a Verdian soprano.
Nice.
Which is a soprano that has high, lofty, shimmery pianissimos, a smooth, even middle, and a creamy undertone.
Make it sound good, okay?
Yes, it's delicious.
Make it do what it do.
I make it do what it do.
Yes, I love it. I love how you even describe that. It is so it's beautiful to be learned in your craft. You know what I'm saying? And the way you just described your work is reminiscent of being learned in your craft. I do want to just touch there because today I actually had an opportunity to see you do a master class, right? And teaching. And it's a beautiful thing to have teachers play a role, into your work and giving a glimpse into opportunities that you had and did not have. Would you say if you were not doing opera, do you think your career would have been as it is? Or, I'm not trying to determine whether or not, this is the right path, because I definitely see that this is the path. I think sometimes we as a culture of people don't deep dive into things that don't necessarily look like our culture. And because of that, we may miss opportunity. And I'm wondering, in your thought process, do you feel like, opera as a genre just exploded you, or do you feel like you would have had the same explosion if you were in another genre of music?
Good question. Good question. Because I sang all genres of music before I came to classical music. I think classical music set me apart because there's a lot of gospel music here in the city and abroad. But it was classical music that set me apart, that made people go, "Who's she? you know,
I
because
love
I
it.
was different. And I had gone to take the gift that God had given me and did some things a little different, dared to do something a little different because opera is not for everyone, but
Yeah,
it's for everyone. It may not be for everyone to perform,
right.
but it is opera is about the peoples of the world. You
Yes.
will find African operas, you
Hmm.
will find like Aida, you will find African American operas like Porgy and Bess.
Hmm.
You'll find Latinx operas like Carmen, and you'll find Asian operas like Turandot.
Hmm.
So it was for me to step out of my comfort zone and explore something new and different that I didn't even know I had
Hmm.
an opportunity or a choice to choose.
Hmm.
And once it was presented to me, I said, okay, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I had been singing musical theater and gospel and R&B, but I will say opera put me on the map.
Yeah. Yeah. And with what Aida right behind you, right? Like your performance at the Met was amazing. It was just amazing. It was mind-blowing and it highly recognized for that performance. It's beautiful that you say that too, is that I had a choice. And I think sometimes we as a culture of people don't realize our choices, right? And don't
And
recognize.
if exactly, and if you
Yeah.
don't have representation,
Come on now.
you won't know
Come on now.
that you have a choice.
Yes.
So I have been representing for the culture.
And that you do. You represent not only for the culture, Black culture, but you represent for women and you represent for being, full and authentic, full of the presence that you bring, like no dimming of the light. You know what I'm saying? Like you
Exactly.
take up the space, right? And I think that's important for women who understand that they have that power to take up space and to be full in that way and not be afraid or try to turn down their light because other people or what other people may say. And I think you do that really well. You enter the room, take up the space, and it's an anointing, right? Like it is one of those things where it's like, oh, I love that. I wish, right? Like, and I think that people get that from you. Like when you're there, you are authentically Angela Brown, and it doesn't change. I love that about you.
Thank you. And since you touched on that, I'm going to talk a little bit about my show that I do called Opera from a Sister's Point of View.
Come on now,
It's
tell us.
a show that demystifies opera for audiences that normally wouldn't go. And you mentioned about not dumbing it down. I don't dumb down the craft of opera, but I do make comfortable
Mhm.
the atmosphere
Right,
that
right.
opera can't take up because it can feel very put offish and oh, I don't belong and I don't want to say, should I be here? What should I wear? Will I understand it?
Yeah,
Opera from a sister's point of view is just that. It's my point of view.
yeah,
I sing opera arias within a concert form, and I explain the stories of opera in a very tongue-in-cheek, now vernacular, but I don't dumb down or talk down to my audience. I just plain speak to
yeah,
my audience, and
yeah.
then I give them great operatic singing, and
Yes.
this is what I'm doing.
Yes, I definitely feel like that. And I hope I didn't say dumbing down because I understand that in the thought process, but it is that thought process of dimming the light. I think sometimes people want others to dim themselves or become smaller for other people, and you really don't do that. And I love that you brought up the show Opera from a Sister's Point of View, opera from a Sister's Point of
Sisters,
View.
sisters.
Sister's Point of View. Thank you.
There you go. You got to lean back on it, baby.
Thank you for that. Opera from a sister's point of view, because it almost pays homage to one of my favorites, Sistah Jones, right? And I've never heard her perform opera. I don't even think that there are any recordings of her, but her attitude, Sistah Jones, like she meddled up, she showed up in these spaces. She was the first Black woman to perform in Carnegie Hall. She was the first opera singer to sing at the Met, and she put these medals in front of her to say, I earned this work, right? I belong here. I earned it. You know who I am, and my voice is going to, open this door and room, but don't let my skin fool you, right? Like my skin is what my skin is, right? I love who I am in my space, but I earned every minute of being here. And I think that's important to acknowledge. What are your thoughts in regards to that? Go ahead.
Well, when it comes to Sistah Jones, she was deemed the Black Patty. There was a white woman named Adele Patty who was big in the day. And so Sistah came along around the same time. So they always want to have, well, if we got a white one, we got to have, then there's the Black one, know, whatever. But she did get a chance to sing, I believe at Carnegie Hall, but not at the Met. She was not at the Met.
Oh, okay.
That was Marian Anderson.
Marian Anderson
was the first one.
Yeah. At the Met, I'm thinking about what is the baseball field in New York?
They've got a couple.
You
were thinking of like where the White Sox or the
well, I think she performed in one of those spaces, but I think you're absolutely right. You know what's so tripped out about her being called the Black Patty is that her manager started that, right? To sell more of her.
To sell more tickets, darling. It's all about the marketing. And at the time, I bet she wasn't mad about it either. But, as time goes on, we start to see, what the real reasons were. But she was also, in order to continue her career, she became like a vaudevillian singer. And she was one of the singers with she fronted, I believe, the Fisk Jubilee Singers, who went around singing spirituals. So everybody was getting together trying to make that dollar together, and continue to and started these new art forms that had begun to open up for Black singers.
Yeah, I think she had to do that because of Plessy versus Ferguson, right? Like they didn't want the interaction between white audiences and Black audiences, like they couldn't be in the same spaces. And so because of that, it's kind of crazy. But in the thought process, the question really the thought brings me to the question of how do you control how you're marketed, right? And do you do that?
Yeah, I have a great agent manager in Janet Elizabeth Gerald of JUJArtist.com.
Nice little plug. Hold on, plugs.
Let's plug it on. She makes sure that all of my information that goes out is correct. Now, if the presenter changes some stuff, what you gonna do? I mean, even with my origin story, as far as making my debut at the Metropolitan Opera in 2004, it has so many iterations of how it became that it's somewhat of a legend. A lot of the stuff you hear ain't true, but I actually made my debut on my merit, not jumping in fourth act and then a star was born. No.
Right.
I made my debut. Now, I did jump in for the fourth act for an ailing soprano, but it was all mixed up and turned around. So it's about sensationalism. It's about selling a paper, or it is what it is. And so if you're excellent, cream is going to rise to the top anyway. And actually, no press is bad press. You want the press, okay?
I love it. I love that you put it in plain language too, where people can understand that, right? Like in the thought process. in order to jump in though, you have to be ready. You know what I'm saying? Like, so your talent, just like you're saying, my talent was already there, right? I'm there anyway. I'm in the room. And in order for me to be in the room, you had to know what my talent and what my presence could do.
Exactly. I was actually hired as what they call a cover or an understudy. It's a cover in opera, understudy in musical theater and Broadway. And that was my job. But I had in that particular contract my debut. I had 2 performances that were my debut at the Metropolitan Opera, and I covered the rest. So there were 14 performances, but I ended up singing, I think 6 of them instead of just 2 because the sopranos got ill. Both, and I was covering 2 sopranos, and both of them fell ill, and I got to step on for it.
Now let me tell you about God's timing. Okay, that's a whole other thing.
Okay.
Both of them fell sick at the same time.
Well,
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Okay, we're not even gonna go there because that can be something totally different.
Okay.
I love it. I love the fact that you know how you are marketed and pushed out to the people. And I think that's important too, like being able to tell your story and being able to say, this is me. And I know this is a genre we're not necessarily accustomed to, but we belong. And so let me tell you from this point of view, and I love that. Ooh, I love it. I love all that about you, right? I love all of that about you. You are so amazing. Thank you for being amazing in that sense. I have a couple more questions. Who are your inspirations? Like, who does it for you?
Okay, so are you talking artistically or just in my life?
I am speaking to you. I know that you are not a monolith, right? So I am speaking to you as your whole self. And because of that, who are your inspirations?
My biggest inspiration is my mother.
Come on now.
My mother was a Jane of all trades and the master of all of them.
Come on.
It was when the time, whatever she picked up to do, whether she was a nurse, a beautician, an artist, a model, a cook, whatever she did.
Painter, yeah.
When it was done, she just went to the next thing. You know, she didn't trip about it. And she gave me the wherewithal to know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
Yes.
For a song, so let me shut up. So you have to know when to stick and move, you know, and not be afraid.
Yes.
To try new things when the time comes. So I will say I learned a lot from Freddie Mae Brown, honey.
Yes, ma'am.
My mama. She was definitely has been and is my biggest inspiration.
Yes, I love that. I love that. That having that agility, right? Having that agile movement. I love that. I talked about that with one of my other interviews about the agility to have things in your toolkit and being able to move. And I love that you just explained it that well. With that being said, I have a thought process surrounding your love and the love of people creating for you, right? Like you've had more than one famous writer create arias for you. What is that like? And can you just share what that is? I think probably I should have asked that question a little bit, when you were talking about being excellent. But yeah, tell me about that and how that was working with.
Well, I have had the honor to have music that has been gifted to me or written for me by 3 very wonderful poets.
Yes.
And that is poets and writers. And that was Mari Evans, Toni Morrison, and Maya Angelou. And
that we could just pause right there because that's a trifecta, right? Like,
okay.
I mean, really, like, I mean, you can kind of dust your shoulders off and be like, oh, let me Tell you, honey.
But you know, when these opportunities arose, it it's just that I was in the room. I was in the right places at the right time. I was prepared with no opportunity. What do they say? It's better to be prepared with no opportunity than to have the opportunity and not be prepared.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
was prepared. And a composer came to me by the name of Richard Danielpour, and he was the first one to do Margaret Garner, which is the story that is beloved, is loosely
Based
based
on.
on.
Yeah.
And he and Toni Morrison got together and they did the opera. And the first part of the opera was actually, it was written for Jesse Norman, okay, the great opera singer Jesse
Yeah.
Norman. But for whatever reasons, Miss Norman couldn't do it. And I was the cover. Okay. And so, and I knew I was the only other person in the world that knew the music. Now, let me just be honest with that. And so I was able to do the world premiere and then went on to do the other uh, two performances. So it was Michigan Opera Theater, Cincinnati Opera, and Opera Company of Philadelphia. And so I was able to world premiere that. And it was a great success. And then from that, Richard wrote a song cycle for me that had the words and the poetry of Maya Angelou attached to it. And he actually, we had a meeting and a dinner meeting, and he said to me, Angela, so who is it that you would like to pen the libretto for your song cycle? And I was like, and I'm playing, I'm just being Angela. We've had Toni Morrison. Why don't we go for Maya Angelou? I was joking. And he said, that's exactly who I was thinking. I was like, had no idea this man was friends with Maya Angelou. So
talk about manifestation.
Okay. And so he talked to Dr. Angelou, and then I had an opportunity to drive to Winston-Salem with my mom. And we actually stayed in the home.
Come on.
And she cooked for us. And we had lunch and we had dinner. And I stayed in her home and we talked and we got to know one another. And we became, good fast friends, I would say. We became fast friends on through to the end of her life. And I was able to go to her home in Winston-Salem and in Harlem. I actually performed it as a command performance for her in her home in Harlem. And she sat there and she wept. And she's like, I'm here to tell you today that I am not an emotional person, especially in public, but you have gotten butter from a duck. And so, just having those memories and opportunities. And then I became very good friends with the poet laureate, Mari Evans here in Indianapolis, as you also got a chance to know Mari Evans. And she was just such a sweet, open person. And she was very giving, and she would just call me up and we would talk about what was on PBS. She loved to sit and talk about things on television. And then I would go and visit her in her home. And I've even taken her Thanksgiving dinner. And we would just, pal around. And so she also gifted me some music that I actually had a chance to sing. And at the Walker Theater, I can't remember what year that was, and she would sit at the piano in her home and play through some of her music for me. And so from that experience and having these three ladies pour into me, I was able to develop a cabaret type show called, let's see, it's so many M's now. Wait a minute, let me get it together. Mari, Morrison, Maya, and me. And it's about the music that they gifted me or wrote for me and my relationship. Even though it was a working relationship, but some of my experiences with these ladies and some funny stories and little things that they told me and shared with me. And I've been blessed.
You
I'm
have been. I
extremely
mean,
blessed.
it's amazing. You have been blessed and you are a blessing. And
Thank
that's beautiful. I would love to see that those interactions in an actual book. That would be a great
Yes, I
able
would like to be able to perform this cabaret even here in Indianapolis, and because
to
it's been performed in Seattle, and that's where it got its world premiere. So I would love to
it
redo that here.
should. Yes, it should be done here. We should have that here.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. My last and final question is for you. Um, what is or why is the genre itself necessary to continue? Like what is going to be the thing to help more people of color, more Black men and women enter into this genre as as just a pertinent space for Black music, like again, I'm writing this in the thought process that this is Black Music Month, and this is a genre that really fills me up, right? Like I'm writing it selfishly because I love opera. But in the thought process, I've seen myself there because I've seen you, right? And so what do we do to ensure that others continue in this vein? And I think I'm asking that because I'm an educator, right? I teach, and it's kind of been difficult to get other people to say, get into the teaching field, like get into this education field. And it's because there are so many things that needs to be reformed in regards to education, right? And there are so many places that we have missed it, the way that we teach. And so either you have to start your own school, or you have to, be in a space that really values teachers. So I'm asking you that question from that perspective, like, what do we do to ensure that there are more persons who are entering the genre, that the genre is vibrant and full of people who can be authentic and people can be themselves fully and offer this great gift to the world?
Well, one few things I would say about that is that it's great storytelling. If you have a good story, opera is a place to have it performed, to have it presented through music.
Yeah.
It opera encompasses so many different styles and genres of music, of art. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you can have dance, you can have singing, great singing, and then you have orchestral music, and then you can have dance. You have all of the arts that can be part of opera. And also, I would say that we have to stop seeing opera as something that is elitist.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about the origins of opera, opera was anything but for the elitists. It was very base, very blue.
Mm-hmm.
But then kings and queens took it over, and then it became something else, and
Yeah.
whatever. But it is something that you should add to your palette of colors in order to become a more well-rounded person, citizen of the world.
Yeah.
You touch all cultural things. Why not? Don't
Yeah.
tell me you don't like opera without trying it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell me you don't like a mushroom without tasting it.
Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah.
And the last thing I will say is that as far as ensuring that opera stays relevant and prevalent in society, that's like trying to eat an elephant in one bite.
Mm.
You can only be a star where you are.
Come on
So
now.
you have to shine your light and and gather your people, your family,
Yeah.
your friends,
Yeah.
expose opera to them,
Yeah.
and hopefully if it's exposed in a good way, they had a good experience with it, it will continue on and on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am the artistic cultural ambassador of Indianapolis Opera, and
Ah,
yeah, girl.
yeah.
And I I curate opera in the park every
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
And so we try to make it a experience that, yes, the opera is the umbrella, but you have all these different other genres of music that
Mm-hmm.
you hear. So there's always something for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of looking at opera as something that's elitist and it's got a wall around it, open those doors and embrace the genre because opera is for everyone.
Love that. That is such a wonderful way to close. And just thank you for being here. Thank you for having me. Thank you for entertaining the questions. You are just as personable and magnificent on stage as you are in interviews and as you are in person. You are just the greatest. And I thank you dearly for doing this.
I love you, Tasha, and you are a great interviewer. Girl,
Oh, thank
this is
you.
a new thing. I'm serious. I am so serious. This is a new thing for you.
Yeah, okay, then I receive
I
it.
love you, and congratulations on your fellowship.
Thank you.